Okay, this video is to help students who are trying to remember how to factor a trinomial. And the first trinomial I'm going to use as a sample is the trinomial x squared plus 6x plus 8. This is a trinomial. Remember, trinomial means that it has three terms. That's where the tri comes from. And if I want to factor a trinomial, then I'm going to use a double bubble in order to factor it. Remember, factoring means that we have to make it into a multiplication problem. And so we have to try to remember which FOIL problem it came from. And I obviously think that I know that there's an x at the front of each one of these bubbles because there's an x squared in the front. Okay, and then I need some numbers in the back that are going to multiply up to 8. And then they also have to add up to 6. You'll notice that I'm using this sign here to talk about the fact that I know that I need numbers that multiply to 8 and add up to 6. Two numbers that multiply to 8 and add up to 6 would be a 4 and a 2. So I'm going to put those in the bubbles so that I can make sure that that works. And notice that I didn't use this sign over here when I was thinking about this, and now is the time that I would use that as I was trying to figure out what sign goes inside each bubble. The plus sign here in front of the 6 will always go with the larger of the two numbers. And since 4 is the larger number, the plus sign goes with the 4. And then I have to figure out what sign would go with the 2, so that when I multiplied the positive 4 times some kind of 2, I would get a positive 8. So I'm pretty sure that that must be a positive 2 as well. So if I was to FOIL this out, I would get x squared plus 6x plus 8. Okay, let's try another. This time, let's try x squared minus 8x plus 12. As we remember that this is also a trinomial, we want to make sure that we are factoring it into a double bubble, but also it has an x in the front of each one. This particular video is about those trinomials which are having a leading coefficient of 1. So this time I need two numbers that multiply up to 12 and add up, and again here's the add sign, add up to 8. And again I am ignoring this sign in front of the 8 for a few seconds. So two numbers that multiply up to 12 and add up to 8 would be a 6 and a 2. And after I've figured out what the numbers are, then I have to consider this sign, and that sign always goes with the larger of the two numbers, and this 6 is the larger, so that sign goes with the 6. And so I now have to think about what would multiply with a negative 6, what kind of 2 would multiply with it to get a positive 12. And obviously that would be a negative 2 because it's a negative 6 times a negative 2 that makes a positive 12. And the other thing that I can think of is when a trinomial ends in a positive sign, the two signs that end up in the bubbles would be the same. Okay, let's try a different one. How about x squared plus 5x minus 14? Okay, so again, it's a trinomial, so we know we're going to have to do a double bubble. And again, since it leads with x squared, we know there's an x in the front of each bubble. And this time we need two numbers that multiply to 14 and subtract, this time subtract to 5. So two numbers that multiply to 14 and subtract to 5 would be 2 and 7. So we've got the numbers, all we don't have is the sign. So this is when we handled this sign here in front of the 5. That sign in front of the 5 is the one that goes with the larger of the two numbers, and the larger of the two numbers is this 7. So the 7 gets a plus. And then I have to figure out what goes with the 2 in order to make a negative 14 when I multiply them together. So a positive 7 and a negative 2 multiply up to a negative 14. Or you could think about it, if that sign on the end is a minus, then the two signs have to be opposites. Okay, one more that has a minus sign in both places to help us round out the entire batch. So how about x squared minus 6x minus 27? If I have x squared minus 6x minus 27, then I still know that it's a double bubble, and I still know that there's an x in the front of each, and I need two numbers that multiply up to 27, and this time subtract to 6. Those two numbers would be a 9 and a 3. And the 9 gets the minus sign since it's the larger of the two numbers, and as I look at the 3, I recognize it must get a plus sign since the two signs have to be opposites. So there are 4 solid examples of how to factor when the leading coefficient is a 1. I hope this helps you.